We've added a complete new user interface for the optimizer in version 5.1. We have changed it to be a bit more tablet friendly and added several things that have been requested through the years. Each tab has been changed and modified. I'm going to go through just a quick overview and then we'll have more detailed videos on each of the changes. Before we go through the actual tabs, we'll take a look at some of the other things that have been modified. First of all, your CNC tooling library has been updated. It now includes a tabbed menu, so all of the library tooling properties are on one page and the tool sets are on a different page. The behavior is basically the same. It's just a little bit easier to get to the various things that you need to work with. One of the major additions to the CNC tooling library is a new tooling spreadsheet. This will allow you to view all of the tools and their properties in one view. You can print this as well, and you can modify things. So you can see all of your Great Lakes carbide tooling tools, for example, what feeds and speeds they're set to, and you can modify any of those things here in the spreadsheet. Or of course you can set the properties here as always. We've also added a new remake library, which we'll get into later. The remnant library has been updated so that you can easily add and delete remnants, both from the remnant library and from the material tab. On the settings tab, you'll notice a new preferences. This option allows you to set the directory where the jobs are located, as well as being able to specify the output directory for G-code. And you can select your various display options and your label options if you have NBM labels. Now let's quickly go through the tabs. You'll notice on the material tab we've added the feed rate from the material library here. We've also added the ability to not only select remnants but also to add and delete remnants right from this tab. The parts tab, you'll notice a big overhaul here. We have added the ability to export DXF files for individual parts. We've also exposed all of the hidden features that were once behind the little pencil to a new sidebar menu, and added some new options there like flipping parts. You'll notice a new category for pattern number, run number, and whether the parts have been cut or not. These are updated automatically as you progress through the other tabs. The Optimize tab has a few new features as well. You can now sequence your flip side parts in the first few nests. You can also elect to optimize only selected parts. So here on the Parts tab, if I identify a number of parts, I can then go to the Optimize tab and just optimize those parts selected. We're going to go ahead and optimize everything in a batch optimization. The menus have been rearranged a bit. You now have your profile options and your dado options here accessible from the Optimize tab, as well as your machines and tool sets. We'll go ahead and optimize, and we'll select all of those materials. On the Patterns tab, you'll immediately notice a new layout. You'll have a new sidebar menu, and the left menu has been updated as well. This can be resized by simply clicking the vertical divider and sliding it. You'll also notice several new bins here. The parts list bin was the default view that you've always been able to see there. And again, we can now stretch this out so you can see all of the information that's there. You also have an unplaced parts bin. If we look at our 1/4 inch plywood, I noticed that there was one part that wasn't placed during optimization. That's now shown here, and we can drag and drop that onto a sheet if we'd like. And of course we have the new remake bin. Notice how I have flip side parts throughout. Let's go back to optimize, and let's optimize this again and tell it to sequence the flip side parts first. So now you notice all of your flip side parts have been sequenced into the first few sheets. Now you'll also notice a new flip parts button here. So if I click that, any parts that have operations only on one side, it'll automatically flip those parts for you. Notice the number of flip side operation parts that went away. Now, if the part is still green, those parts have to have flip side ops, either flip sheet or flip parts. Speaking of which, we'll go ahead and click the Generate G-Code button, and we'll do this for multiple sheets. You can now generate your G-Code for all your sheets, and you can also generate not only the primary program, but also either your flip sheet programs or flip part programs. Of course, a flip part program is going to generate a G-code file for each of the individual parts to do the backside machining. A flip sheet program is going to do a program for the entire sheet on both sides. Before proceeding to the new G-code tab, one other feature to show you. If I click on a part here on a nest and I go back to the Parts tab, you'll notice that that part is automatically selected. You can also see now that each part is identified by the pattern that they're in and the run number. Each time you generate an optimization run, Mozaik will assign a run number to it. Any parts that are not placed on the sheet you can easily identify. If we go to our 1/4 inch plywood and we sort by pattern number, you can see that this unfinished back has not been assigned to a pattern yet. If we go back to the Patterns tab, you'll find that in the 1/4 inch unplaced parts bin. So we can actually pull that onto a sheet, rotate the part if we choose, and see if it'll fit on the sheet. It obviously won't. So we can undo that with a Control Z. Undo and redo have been implemented here in the optimizer. All of your menus have been updated, like the remnants, for example. The remnants now assign a remnant number to each remnant. Also on the Patterns tab, you will notice once you select a pattern, you get the information about the pattern, the barcode file, the file name, the machine that it's using, the kerf or the part spacing, as well as all the tools used on that particular sheet. So let's go back out to View All Patterns, select a 3/4 plywood, select this sheet for example, and now we can see all the tools that are used to process the operations on this sheet. There's the barcode. Let's go back to View All Patterns. And while we're still on the Pattern tab, let's take a quick look at the remake library. So let's say that we've sent this job to the shop and someone in the shop comes back to the front office and lets us know that we need to remake a part. Or better yet, you're using the CNC operator at the CNC machine and someone alerts you that you need to make a new part. We simply click on that part, right click, and move that part to the remake bin. Notice the part is now labeled as needing to be remade, and it is available here in the remake bin. You can also click on a part and drag it to the remake bin by simply holding the left mouse button and drag it into the bin. Notice once you get over the bin, when you release it, it'll drop it in the remake bin, relocate the part with the word remake. Now we can place these parts either on a new sheet and regenerate G-code for that sheet, or we can even add them to the library and add them to a new job. Let's look at both of those very quickly. Go back to View All Patterns, click on this pattern. Now we'll click on a part, perhaps the adjustable shelf, drag it onto the sheet holding down the left mouse button, release it, and we'll go ahead and bump that in position. And now perhaps rather than placing this particular part in this job or on this sheet, we want to place it in on a sheet in a different job. Then we simply click that part and save it to the remake library. It'll remove it from the job and it will add it to the library so that you can then select that part and add it to a different job at some point in the future. You may have already moved on to a different job before this part is identified in the shop as having to be remade. So that's an excellent feature that allows you to quickly grab it in a new job and place it. And you would do that on the Parts tab by simply selecting Remake Library, selecting the part you want to add, and add it to the job. Now let's move on to the new G-code tab. This automatically organizes all of your patterns by run number and pattern number. And also, if your patterns have flip sheet or flip part operations, they're going to be associated with the primary pattern. This is designed to be used at the machine or in conjunction with cutting the parts. The optimizer is now available in a standalone edition for CNC Complete. It's a product known as the CNC Operator, so you can run this on a PC at the control, on a laptop at the machine, or on one of the Windows tablets. And as your panels are processed, you can mark them complete. And not only will it change the color of the patterns as you go through, it'll also mark them complete and cut here on the Patterns tab, as well as the parts are going to be marked cut here on the Parts tab. The Label tab has been updated with the new menuing system, and again, the parts are synchronized between the Label tab, the Pattern tab, and the Parts tab. And finally, the Summary tab has been updated as well to give you the proper yield, the cost of the material, the quantity of the parts, and so forth.